actually on travel making a movie. So I'm coming to you from sunny San Diego, in my hotel room. And as you can see, it's one of those beautiful days here, 80 degrees, probably a little bit warmer than where you guys are. But what I wanted to talk just ever so briefly about in introducing the film is kind of my background as an artist. And right now, currently, I'm focusing on film and video production. And I use the tools of, instead of paintbrushes and pastels, I use cameras and computers and things like that. And this is how I get to tell my story of whatever it is that interests me. And so I just wanted to talk ever so slightly before we see the film a little bit about art and science and why I feel like it's important that we talk about those things in the same room at the same time. They're not exclusive, mutually exclusive. And so quickly, I'm going to head on over to my keynote presentation, and I'm going to put up a picture of a person who has particularly been inspirational to me, Carl Sagan. Many of you may be familiar with him, of course. And Carl Sagan is very famous not only for his work with SETI and discoveries that he was a part of as an astronomer, but he's very famous for Cosmos, a personal journey, which was the original one in the 80s. And we've seen an amazing reboot of that, thanks to the work that Neil deGrasse Tyson has been doing. And hopefully all of you have been able to catch some of those shows, if not all. And so Carl had a even though he was a scientist, he was an astronomer, but he recognized the importance of media and the venue of television to tell the story of science. And I had a quick little anecdote that I just wanted to share regarding. Let me get to the. Hold on, just a minute here. So here we see on the left Starry Night. Everyone knows, probably have heard of Van Gogh, and we see this image. It's a very famous painting. I don't care how famous it is. It's pretty much one of my favorites. And it's obviously using paint and brushes and canvas, and it's what we know and think of as art. And on the right side, we see a very technical display of data, and this is actually of model data modeling the ocean currents of the Atlantic Ocean there, and you can see the Gulf Stream and everything. It's really beautiful. But what happened when this movie came out a couple years ago, I was part of editing it when I worked at NASA, is that it went kind of viral. There was a lot of shares. And this went all over the world, and people kept calling it Van Gogh. They were referring to this painting. And it was really fascinating to watch how people were so engaged with these ocean currents simply because it looked like Starry Night, which was never the intention necessarily of the creators at NASA. So I just found that to be just a perfect example of where art and science come together and how they can actually enter the public consciousness a little bit easier that way. And so this is why I truly believe in this statement that is kind of the core of my production company, that when art and science partner, inspiration follows. And so I'm going to come back to the camera here real quick. And just wanted to say another couple words about our pale blue dot. So obviously, Carl Sagan, having coined this image that you'll see in the very beginning of the film called that he called the pale blue dot. When he called this image the pale blue dot, he was referring to how small it was in comparison to the rest of the image. And you'll have a great opportunity to see that in the film. And the reason I am calling it our pale blue dot is because the purpose of this film is why this particular pixel in this image matters so much. It happens to be the only one that we can live on. And so my hope as an artist and a filmmaker is to use the tools of, and the sphere is such an amazing tool, to tell this story of looking at the Earth from space. Not everyone gets to be an astronaut, and many people want to be. The amazing part is that with the science and technology that we have going around the planet right now in the form of satellites, we get the views that astronauts get. And it's amazing. And so this film kind of takes us through the story of how we first started looking at the planet and where we are now and why that's important. And so with that, Jamie, feel free to play the film, and I'd be happy to take questions afterward.
February 14th, 1990. The Voyager 1 spacecraft is about 6 billion kilometers from Earth, beyond the planets of our solar system, screaming toward interstellar space. Following commands from NASA, the spacecraft turns and points its telescope at a distant object, looking back from where it has come. The resulting picture appears at first rather unassuming, but magnifying the image, we are able to discern a small blue dot. There, in that band of reflected sunlight, is Earth, the place we all call home. This, dubbed by Carl Sagan, pale blue dot, gives us a perspective of our planet we humans have never seen. Suddenly, we are distant and fragile, obscure and isolated within the cosmos. How small, how seemingly insignificant, barely a dot. No detail, no continents, no boundaries, no definitions unless one can allow it something. And to survive on the speck in our otherwise barren solar neighborhood, we will have to work together. Let's go back a little further to December 1968. The power program has begun, and Earthlings are finally calling the moon. It fills their views in camera frames. And then, above the horizon, there is Earth. Breathtaking. So this is what an Earthrise looks like. Move forward 4 years. The Apollo 17 astronauts leave humanity's last footprints on the moon. But before they even arrive, they too make photographic history. What a window seat. This is our first look at an entire disk of the planet. From 45,000 kilometers away, we see the deserts of Africa, sprawled over the Pacific, Antarctica, and all its ice-covered grandeur. This picture becomes known as the Blue Marble. But wait, this is only one side of the planet. One of the western hemisphere, or Greenland and the North Pole. The shot is an actual photograph taken by human hand in space. It was only a simple moment in time. Strikingly beautiful, yes. An efficient way to monitor and study our planet? Not really. As you may have guessed, we're already working on that. In 1960, the U.S. launches Tyros-1, the first in a long line of spacecraft that will revolutionize the way we predict weather. The Tyros satellites continuously orbit the Earth and capture regional cloud images every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day. Stitching these images together, we create the first mosaic of the entire planet. As decades pass, these weather satellite missions evolve into a highly diverse Earth-observing fleet. By measuring various wavelengths of light, many outside the small fraction of the spectrum we can see with our eyes, we have to see with the picture. 2002 brings a modern blue marble, this one of the entire planet. A true color, high-resolution mosaic made possible by combining the latest satellite imaging processing technologies. The bird's-eye view of our planet allows much more than a prediction of the next week's weather. We've now gathered decades of climate observations, time-lapses, so to speak, of Earth's vital signs, sea ice cover, ocean temperature, greenhouse gases, and ultimately, global temperature. Scientists around the world are vigorously studying our planet, tracking changes over time, using models and simulations. The more data are gathered, identifiable patterns emerge. What can we see? The ice and ice sheets are rapidly declining. Earth absorbing more heat. Oceans are warming, and in the process, climate patterns are shifting. This field that we humans call home is changing before our eyes. And we don't know exactly how this will affect our planet. It could be 100 or 200 years from now. Ironically, the technology that allows us to seeing these trends was created by the very species that has the ability to affect, for better or worse, the future of this planet. Just why is the future of our pale blue dot so important? We care. Consider the dramatic effects of climate change on the human family. Extended droughts, cooling water shortages, increased extreme weather events. As sea levels rise, coastlines will be redrawn, and what will happen to the current cities and people who live there? Why, simply, climate change will affect all of us. Our species' ability to thrive, perhaps to survive, depends on the united stewardship of our pale blue dot. In the words of Carl Sagan, the Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Is it? Yes. Settled? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
Oh, there's such a delay.
Victoria, are you there?
Yes. How you doing, Jamie? So, any questions?
All right. So this is what's going on with us here. We had the I'm going to step in front of the camera so you can see me.
Okay. Great.
We had our leadership group, and they're on a pretty tight schedule, so they are exiting. But we have a few folks left. So I don't know if we have any questions for you. All right, Victoria, I think we lost because of our large crowd that walked out.
If you want, I will talk to two people if anyone's interested in hearing about what making a movie on your means or anything like that. It's totally up to you guys.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I just for us. Yeah, but we're going to show it again. Give us about 5 minutes.
Great.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
All right. So we have the filmmaker that's on a hangout here. You just yeah, we'll show it again in just a few. So one of the things that just before we get you off the line that I just want to have you speak about challenges of making a spherical film. Like we talked the other day, I said it was 3D, but it's not really 3D, but we get that 3D image on the sphere. And how do you do that?
Well, the great thing about the sphere is that I recognize there's a pretty big lag here, I think, so sorry about that. But the great thing about the sphere is that it is this three-dimensional object in the room, and when you project data sets on it, especially of planets, it really feels like you're looking and walking, you feel like an astronaut, you're walking in the room. So that's one of the hugest, kind of biggest draws to the sphere. And then making movies on it is the next step up from simply just showing data sets, and that does have a lot of challenges. Something very simple, there's no left and right to the frame. So right here, there's a right side and a left. It doesn't happen on the sphere. It has to meet in the middle. If someone sees a scene, they're going to feel like they're missing something. So my job as a filmmaker is how to shoot and edit and even write for the sphere. So it affects, when I wrote this film, I had a couple things in mind, and I knew that by showing, for instance, the blue marble on just one part of the planet and leaving the rest of it pretty much black, people would feel like they're missing something, and that was kind of the point, and you can do that on the sphere. What you can't really do on the sphere is something that everybody wants to do, and cut the thing open and look at the core of the planet. You can't do that. It's very hard to do it, which having to do with basic things like because the sphere kind of curves around and we lose that frame of reference. We don't have the edges of a frame. But in many ways, it's very similar to making regular movies. The biggest concerns that I have as a filmmaker, and that I think most people that make movies for the sphere have, is how to deal with this concept of one side always having to meet the other, and how do we make best use of not only spherical data sets, but also animations. And one thing I really care about as a filmmaker is music and narration and sound. All of these things come together to make a film, and that kind of is across the board in general. So.
Well, and I think that's the first thing when we show sphere movies like this. The first thing that people do is they circle the sphere because they're looking for the seam. They're looking to see if they're seeing the same images on both sides, which is pretty cool because they because they are seeing the same thing wrapped around it. So, but I think we are going to show your film again. So we have some folks coming in around us, and we're going to pull some folks in. Sure. But you got to come over here where our microphone is so she can. What's your name?
Chuck.
Chuck.
Thanks.
Hi. How are you?
Just was in NOAA a month ago and saw the sphere for the first time, and I'm also an amateur filmmaker. So the big question is, what do you think you'll do next?
Oh, that is a really big question. One thing I want to do is just this film is very much an introduction. It's kind of a historical overview at looking at the planet from space, and it was kind of celebrating how we got to where we are now. And when we actually get to the data sets, we go through them pretty quickly. So my goal as a science storyteller is to kind of tell stories that I think matter. And right now, I'm very focused on climate change. And so I'm interested in finding the topic that would lend itself to the sphere and would help help bring this into people's consciousness. And it's very much in people's consciousness, but believe it or not, there's still questions as to even if it even exists. And so I feel like any story that can say, yes, it does, and here's why, and here's some serious data, I think that's the next story I'll be working on.
Great.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Victoria? All right, Victoria, thank you so much for helping us out and doing this hangout with us. It was excellent. So once again, you guys are seeing Victoria Weeks. We are broadcasting live from the Space Foundation. If you have any more, if you need any more information, you can go to our website, www.spacefoundation.org. And Victoria, can you go ahead and say your website as well when they want to come and visit you?
Website is verglassmedia.com. So it's Verglass with one S, media.com, and there's a whole link to the entire film where I talk about all the data sets that were in there and the images. And if I have it on my screen share. I don't know if it's worth grabbing that real quick. Let me see. I'll get there in 2 seconds. It's right here. So there's an entire website that discusses why we made the film. And do I have the? There it is. There we go. And I'm getting there. This is. There we go. So that's the website, and you can learn all about the data sets that are in there and kind of our inspiration. And that's it. Thanks a lot, Jamie.
All right. Thank you, Victoria. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye. Stop. I need to hang up on the call.
The spacecraft is about 6 billion kilometers from Earth, beyond the planets of our solar system, screaming toward interstellar space. Following commands from NASA, the spacecraft turns and points its telescope at a distant object, looking back from where it has come. The resulting picture appears at first Whether unassuming, but magnifying the image, we are able to discern a small blue dot. There, in that glint of reflected sunlight, is Earth, the place we all call home. This, dubbed by Carl Sagan, pale blue dot, gives us a perspective of our planet we humans have never seen. Suddenly, we are distant and fragile, obscure and isolated within the cosmos. How small, how seemingly insignificant, barely a dot. No detail, no continents, no boundaries, no definitions of us one from another. We are quite simply human. And to survive on a speck in our otherwise barren solar neighborhood, we will have to work together. Let's go back a little further to December 1968. The Apollo program has begun, and Earthlings are finally orbiting the moon. It fills their views in camera frames, and then, appearing above the horizon, there it is, Earth. Breathtaking. So this is what an Earthrise looks like. Move forward 4 years. The Apollo 17 astronauts leave humanity's last footprints on the moon. But before they even arrive, they too make photographic history. What a window seat. This is our first look at an entire disk of the planet. From 45,000 kilometers away, we see the deserts of Africa, storms over the Pacific, Antarctica in all its ice-covered grandeur. This picture becomes known as the Blue Marble. But wait, this is only one side of the planet. One of the Western Hemisphere, or Greenland of the North Pole. This snapshot is an actual photograph taken by a human hand in space. It is only a single moment in time. Strikingly beautiful, yes. An official way to monitor and study our planet? Not really. But as you may have guessed, we're already working on that. In 1960, the U.S. launches Tyros-1, the first of a long line of spacecraft that will revolutionize the way we predict weather. The Tyros satellites continuously orbit the Earth and capture regional cloud images every 30 seconds, 24 hours in a day. Stitching these images together, we create the first mosaic of the entire planet. As decades pass, these weather satellite missions evolve into a highly diverse Earth observing fleet. By measuring various wavelengths of light, many outside the small fraction of the spectrum humans see with our eyes, we begin to see a bigger picture. 2002 brings a modern blue marble, this one of the entire planet. A true color, high-resolution mosaic made possible by combining the latest satellite imaging and processing technologies. This bird's-eye view of our planet allows much more than a prediction of next week's weather. We have now gathered decades of climate observations, time lapses, so to speak, of Earth's vital signs, Arctic sea ice cover, ocean temperature, greenhouse gases, and ultimately, global temperature. Scientists around the world are vigorously studying our planet, tracking changes over time, feeding models and simulations. As more and more data are gathered, identifiable patterns emerge. And what do we see? Sea ice and ice sheets are rapidly declining. The Earth is absorbing more heat. The oceans are warming, and in the process, climate patterns are shifting. This sphere that we humans call home is changing before our eyes. And we don't know exactly how this will affect our planet 50, 100, or 200 years from now. Ironically, the technology that allows us to see these trends was created by the very species that has the ability to affect, for better or worse, the future of this planet. Just why is the future of our pale blue dot so important? And why do we care? Consider the dramatic effects of climate change on the human family. Extended droughts, food and water shortages, increased extreme weather events. As sea levels rise, coastlines will be redrawn, and what will happen to the current cities and people who live there? Quite simply, climate change will affect all of us. Our species' ability to thrive, perhaps even survive, depends on humanity's stewardship of our pale blue dot. In the words of Carl Sagan, the Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species can migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
All right, just to wrap things up, that was our Pale Blue Dot, which was a film that was specifically made for Science on a Sphere. We are live here at the Space Foundation in Colorado Springs, and thank you for joining us.